The Mystery of the Faceless Bride. It was a rather calm evening when Holmes and I heard hurried footsteps coming up Mrs. Hudson's stairs. We had only just arrived from our night out at the theatre. Holmes had spent the entire time announcing every hole in the plot and every twist to an audience who was steadily losing their patience, and we had quickly vacated before Holmes could utter the killer's name and the fact that they had an obsession with cats. Holmes had been sitting in his armchair, still wearing his evening wear and smoking, and I had been changing into my night-clothes in the other room when the aforementioned footsteps occurred, and there was a terrific banging noise upon the door. I half expected it to smash open and a brute of a man fall inside. I ran back into the sitting-room, putting on my dressing-gown, and asked Holmes what the blazes was going on. Holmes paused and blew out a ring of smoke. "You shouldn't have bothered changing, dear chap. Open the door now, would you?" I tightened my belt and hesitantly went to the door. I shuddered from the pounding it was receiving, and I would not have been surprised if Mrs. Hudson had soon appeared brandishing a pot and broom. When I opened the door, I thought it might have been another ruffian after Holmes, a relative of someone he had put away with his deductions. But it was a young woman who was half my size. Her bruised knuckles were raised to bang the door, her tongue kept on creeping out to lick away the blood beading on her lip. She was in a frightful state. One side of her face had swelled up, and I doubted she could see out of her right eye. Her clothes were torn and muddied. The woman should have been weeping, yet she appeared to be frantic with rage.
"Where is he?"
she painfully slurred.
"Where's Mr. Sherlock Holmes? I need him."
I ushered her inside and made to direct her to a chair, but she bared her rotten teeth at me. She stood in front of Holmes with dark, dry blood streaked through her light red hair, and she had her arms wrapped around her sides. "I'm right here, Mercy," Holmes answered her, continuing on as she gaped. "I noticed you staggering after us the moment Dr. Watson and I left the cab." "Holmes," I admonished him as I picked up a clean rag and alcohol. "We could have helped her, not left her to drag herself here." "She wouldn't have accepted the help." Holmes turned his head to look at me and answered my curious expression, completely ignoring Mercy. "This is Mercy Doolan, a matchstick girl, the youngest child from the Doolan family with 5 brothers. I imagine she has come to us regarding one of them." I watched as Mercy's anger quickly descended into disbelief.
"How'd you find that out?"
"Does your jaw hurt, Mercy?" Holmes began. "It must be taking all of your energy to speak. Rotten teeth are normally the outcome of poor hygiene, however, combined with the purloined matches you have sticking out of your pocket." At his words, Mercy's fingers pushed the matches until they were hidden away. "Then it is obvious to assume you work in a match factory. For several years, considering the deterioration of your teeth and jaw from the phosphorus fumes." "And my name?" "One of your brothers sells newspapers here at Baker Street. I have noticed you meeting him, most likely to give him the matches to sell, and street sellers are not known to be quiet." Holmes laughed to himself. "There was no need for deductions in that regard. I even know when your mother's next baby is due." It was then that Mercy finally gave in to her body's demands for rest. I caught her as she stumbled and forced her into the chair that I normally sat in opposite Holmes.
"You're all the same,"
she tiredly murmured.
"You push boys, sneering at us because we was born in the wrong house. If you're really as clever as the papers say you are, figure out what's happened to me."
"Well, a fight of some sort, though I will leave Watson to deduce your injuries." My fingers ran through her blooded hair, and I found the source. There was a gash on the side of her head that had healed not that long ago. I poured some alcohol on my cloth and dabbed at it. She wriggled and tightly clenched her hands in discomfort. "She's been hard hit, Holmes," I said in disbelief. The young woman certainly had a tongue on her, but that didn't warrant a beating. "With a weapon of some sort."
"A cricket bat," Mercy answered. "Will I need stitches, Doctor? Will I have to pay for them?"
"No to both of those questions." I shook my head. "I'm not about to charge you when you look like you've crawled out of a grave." "More like punched her way out of a grave, considering the state of her hands," Holmes added. "Now do stop fussing over her, Watson. I'm sure Miss Doolin would prefer us to get started on her case, if she's willing to tell us about it rather than continuously be in a bad humour." Holmes leaned forward, and I noticed Mercy shifting uneasily. At that moment Holmes resembled the elongated shadow of a cat that was waiting for a mouse to appear. Although the young woman had arrived beaten and in desperate need of our help, there was nothing interesting about a fight. The police could run after attackers. Holmes wanted an intrigue.